Yes, this kind of work of very dangerous, potentially pandemic pathogens, being made more transmissible and potentially more lethal to humans, nobody paid attention to it because nobody cared about this kind of work in virology until the outbreak happened.
To begin with, I certainly didn't approach the issue with any sort of suspicion or foregone conclusions. However, things began to change as the pandemic evolved.
When the outbreak happened, a lot of people noticed that it's quite a coincidence that it happened in the same city where there's this premier lab studying coronaviruses. And, people were saying, well, that's suspicious. And everybody who said there could be more to it, they were called conspiracy theorists. It's that the Wuhan Institute of Virology that is located at the epicenter of the outbreak has been creating chimeric, genetically modified coronaviruses for many, many years. And they've been putting these spike proteins from different viruses in their backbones and then studying how well does that infect human cells. Just this alone formed a very plausible argument that this is actually the lab that hosts so many different coronaviruses, explains the lab leak the best.
That cast doubt on COVID-19 coming from an infected animal.
We approached nature, we approached science, we approached the American Journal of Virology, we approached various publications in the UK, and it was clear to me that there was a sort of united front not to put anything in the public domain which questioned the China.
Was from Professor Petrovsky. His research found the virus was better adapted to infect humans than any other animal, including bats.
And we thought the scientific journals, particularly the leading ones, would actually jump on this paper because they like to have papers that are very topical, that are going to get a lot of media attention. And so we were quite stunned when we just got rejection after rejection after rejection without even the paper being looked at about, what is the truth? What are the facts?
It's a sad story of unprincipled compromise in face of an authoritarian regime. And also, it is also a sad story of political wokeness because the reason many scientists sign on to that kind of rhetoric to accuse anybody who's seriously interested in the possibility, not the certainty, but the possibility of a lab leak as simply racist.
Unfortunately, you could say that the Trump factor contaminated the argument quite seriously. And I think there were a significant number of prominent scientists who did not want publicly to appear to be supporting Trump.
We saw big media say, you know what, Donald Trump and his Secretary of State are out talking about this thing. These people are surely crazy. They're political zealots. They want a shiny object. I heard all the different stories. But of course, as we unpack it, as we accumulate data, science, evidence, facts, it's more clear than ever that the virus came from this laboratory.
Was Peter Daszak. He's the president of EcoHealth Alliance, and he'd been working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology for 15 years, sending US grant money to Wuhan for bat research.
He's the absolute expert on bat-borne coronaviruses in the United States and their epidemiology, and that he assures us that the Chinese had provided him personally with proof to make it clear that this had come out of nature. But when we asked for this proof, when we asked the government agencies that had funded the work of EcoHealth and others, they couldn't give us that proof because they didn't have that proof.
We looked at what certain scientists were saying, matching it with intelligence, and when it didn't match up, we were questioning it. But then as we looked more closely at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, you know, what a lot of scientists like Dr. Fauci and Peter Daszak were saying was, there's no live bats there, there's no gain-of-function research there, there's no military there. And we had intelligence that was telling us that all of those things were occurring there.
Crazy. The Daszak was the guy. He was incredibly compromised in that sense. He should have recused himself. He should have said, nope, I can't be part of that. I was connected to this. I was involved in the funding of things that were taking place at this laboratory. It made no sense to put him on that group. He should have seen that himself, and certainly the leaders who were making the decisions about who to have be part of that commission should have seen that this conflict of interest would deny their report, whatever it was they were going to put out, the credibility that I know they hoped that they would have.
You know, it's 413 pages long, and only 3 pages are devoted to the possibility that we're dealing with a lab escapee.
Well, the WHO is controlled by China. I dropped out of the World Health Organization. I thought it was ridiculous. They were late, they were wrong.
Machine in November 2019.
I wouldn't be able to comment on that.
How significant would this purchase be?
Would be significant.
Is it a smoking gun?
Ultimately, I don't think there's ever going to be one specific smoking gun. I think there's more than just smoke here. I think there's fire from a whole bunch of different sources. I think that would be another compelling piece of evidence if you need more. I don't need more.
Has more names than any disease in history. I can name Kung Flu,